Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Wednesday in the Riv. And after a council meeting, which was quite the little fiasco, and so we are back, and I guess the Bank Street Armory remains in limbo, but we did have our mendacious mayor. So you guys can look that up. That's one of your words of the day. The master of mendacity, the mendacious mayor. And that's a little bit of alliteration. The man who speaks with a multi-forked tongue. Now all of a sudden he's whining on it. We don't have the money to fix the armory. Well, maybe if you didn't hire all those people and give out all that money,
And
waste
pissed
all
away
that
all the
opera
ARPA
money,
fund.
guess what? Find the money. The people want it. And he also went on to say, oh, yeah, but we got stuff we want to do on the old Durfee Auditorium because we want to make it into some kind of entertainment center. And where's that located, CJ? In the
The North
North End,
End.
where all his rich friends live. The hell with the hell with the entertainment complex for the people down in the center of the city. The hell with that. We don't want that armory. My campaign donor wants that place. Shut up and give it to him. And I'm going to keep coming back until we get it.
Well, here's the interesting part about last night's meeting. Brad Kilby or Joe Camara, I don't know which one it was, said that 5 votes were necessary to lift the item from the table. And because they only had 4 votes, it wasn't valid. You only needed 4 votes because yesterday they had 7 people at the meeting. So it would have been 4-3. Therefore, it can be taken off the table. But they said 5. Why? Because they didn't want it to take it on yesterday because they knew they would fail because if one person voted no, that was it. They lost it.
That's
And
right.
that's the problem.
And there goes Brad. I hope he's a better lawyer than he is a parliamentarian, both of them. Because neither of them know. There's no. Did they have a quorum?
Yes,
Yes.
they did.
Did it make it a legal meeting? Yes. Is to lift from the table a majority vote? Yes. So it could have been lifted from the table. Unless that bogus, what is that ridiculous thing that they use? It's a political parliamentary. It's not Atwoods or Roberts. They use that
Pushing.
Cushing's. But as far as I know, Cushing's pretty. Most of the time, it parallels Roberts and Atwoods, and you don't need a supermajority to lift from the table. It's a simple motion. You had a quorum. It was a legal meeting. So again, they use their ignorance. These people run meetings and they're ignorant of that stuff. See, this is why if I could never be on there, I'd be standing up screaming about points of order. Kilby doesn't know how to run a meeting. He never ran a meeting in his life under any kind of rules, parliamentary rules. These people just make up shit so they can just defer it until they can get the votes. So remember, the mendacious mayor, the master of mendacity, Kuganokio, the man who said this city was flush. Shut up! We got plenty of money. Oh, we can't afford it. Diamond's coming. Durkee's coming. We got no money. I just heard that at the retirement board meeting. The city's in such tough shape. Oh, really? Really? Well, I guess, Paul, when you went on the radio and they asked you a financial question and said you're out of the loop. Well, I'm out of the loop. I'm not in that loop. I can't answer that question. Well, you're the mayor. You're supposed to ask those questions and get answers. But you know what to say. You know what to say when it's election time. City's fine. We're in great shape. Here comes 2.5 overrides, people. Here comes threatened layoffs. It's all coming down a pipe right now. It's coming down the highway. So we got some new names here with a little bit of alliteration. So, but you know, it's bizarre how a legal body that's commissioned to be the Ways and Means, the people who control the purse strings, have absolutely no conception of what their legal responsibilities are or their parliamentary responsibilities. Back to you, Z.
Well, you know, I asked a serious question yesterday about why wasn't the arbitrators award presented to the city council. It's got to be presented in 30 days if I'm correct. Correct, Chip? It's 30 days. Is it 30 calendar days?
CJ, that's only if you abide by Chapter 150E, which is the collective bargaining law, and Section 7, which says upon the execution of a collective bargaining agreement within 30 days, it has to be sent to the appropriate funding body. So that's only if you abide by the law. But you know that we don't abide by the law in this city unless it suits us.
Well, what's interesting is that Seth Akins gave a city councilor the excuse that we haven't worked out the numbers. There are no numbers to work out. The arbitrator already ruled. The rule is binding. That's it. If you can't afford it, that's your fault. You shouldn't have given all your friends these jobs. You shouldn't have given out all those pay raises. You shouldn't have pissed away the ARPA funds. What is going on? And to top it all off, which I loved, this happened last night, Michelle Dion called out EMS because, according to her, they were presented with 174,000 and change for an echo stethoscope and for an ultrasound machine for each ambulance and vehicle. And that was to enhance the home care program that the city wants to institute. And she said, if you've already gotten this, okay, why are we duplicating this service? Why are we duplicating this fund request? And the director of EMS said, we have not received any ARPA funds for this. We haven't placed an order for any equipment, so we haven't received anything. So they're asking again. But Laura Washington, you know, our favorite friend Laura, lovely woman that she is, she turns around and she says, so this money that you're requesting is for seed money to start this program. They changed the whole reason for asking for the money. It's seed money. So we can start the program. And this program will generate a lot of money for the EMS accounts because it is an enterprise account. And Michelle brought up the fact that why shouldn't you be able to absorb these costs? Because they've got so much money, they have such a windfall of money in their enterprise account. So there's a lot of questions that aren't being answered. And for them to turn around and say that they're going to receive a phone call from the doctor or a physician's assistant requesting that they go out to a home and evaluate a patient to determine whether or not they need to go to the hospital. What they will do is they will go in, take their vitals, then have FaceTime or some other telemedicine system so that the doctor or the PA can make a decision on whether or not to send them to a hospital. Really? That's what we're doing? Now, I spoke with a citizen who turned around and said, wait a second. If I want to go to the hospital, that's my right. I don't want somebody in EMS telling me that I can't go to the hospital. If I want to go to the hospital, that's my right. Take it or leave it. But that citizen used other more graphic words, shall we say.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But listen, this whole thing smacks of, again, mendacity, lying, propensity to lie. I've given away some of the definition, but hey. But the reality is seed money for some program that's going to benefit the hospital too. Are we getting any kickback from the hospital? Number one, this isn't opera money, because remember, the city council doesn't give out opera money. Did anybody pick that little gem up? The fact that now they're asking for money above the opera money that supposedly was earmarked. Now they want the taxpayer money.
No, what they were asking for was the Bristol County ARPA funds, which the city council controls.
Oh, all right. If they were asking for Bristol County ARPA money, was the first request for Bristol County ARPA money, or was it for city money?
The first request went to the city money.
Yeah, there you go. And you know what Paulie said? We can't give it to you now. We're broke. Oh, I don't know what to do. We got to rob money from it. And just for you, to clear up to put it in plain English for the taxpayer, I'll tell you what Seth Atkins was saying. I'll take out the code word. We haven't worked out the numbers. You are 100% correct. The award is what the award said. That is something that is statutory. That's the award. It can't be changed. And what they're saying is, we haven't figured out where we're going to rob the money to fund this contract. What little pile of magic money that we squirreled away by overestimating how much we're paying for health care. Well, maybe now we know where that 17, wait a minute, Jesus, amazing. In the last 4 fiscal years, the city has made $13,174,316 from their health care premium rebate because we were over budgeted. Where's that money? So what they're trying to do now is figure out where it can come from. And they're still hoping that the council will reject it and send this thing back to square one. And I'll tell you, that letter that was written in violation of the law, I just hope if they do, they sue everybody, the council, the mayor, all these bobbleheads. And I seed money. So she must have talked to our mendacious mayor. I don't even know if the blank space could come up with something like seed money. How would she know that was seed money? Is she privy to some secret plan? As you said, listen, CJ, you know more about this stuff than I do. You're a professional. I mean, it's amazing that this woke society, they so love labels. Negative labels for their enemies and positive labels for their friends. Like, we have to call Jill Biden Dr. Jill. Doctor. The one that wrote a PhD paper that looked like a 3rd grader wrote it. Dr. Jill. And now on that afternoon program, there's some afternoon program, I caught it a couple times when they sign off, they got some person on there. And at the end, they don't just say, hi, this is CJ, this is Chip. No, you have to use your title when you're a Wokey. And this is Dr. So-and-so. And I'm Dr. So-and-so, in case you forgot that I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor. Everybody has to put down everything. CJ, I'm gonna have to stop calling you CJ. I'm gonna have to start calling you doctor.
The honorable doctor.
The honorable Dr. Ferry. From now on, because when you sign off, don't, if you say this is CJ, no, Doc, I want you to introduce yourself like the Wokies do. This is the Honorable Dr. CJ Ferry. And because these people are ridiculous. They don't know what the hell they're doing. If she's that good a doctor, what is she doing on a TV show that's like a talk show? Why doesn't she go practice medicine somewhere? Because I don't know, she may not be like a real doctor, a medical doctor. We know that PhDs are doctors, but they're not. When people say doctor, that's the inference of I'm a doctor, I'm a big deal. So, but this is their labeling. They love to label people. Terrorists, oppressed, oppressor. You know, and this is what they do. But they don't know what the hell they're doing. They're city councilors. I don't know, seed money? How would you come up with that? I don't know. But it's a joke watching this. They don't know parliamentary procedure. They don't know anything about, and all they know how to do is spend our money. I want to know if the hospital's kicking back to us. Because you go to the hospital for an echo, they're charging you. They're going to have them give that temporary echo when you get to the hospital. They'll probably give you another one. This is, hospital's going to make money on this program because you got to talk to a doctor. You're not going to tell me that the hospital's not going to charge you for the doctor talking to the EMS. But they make money and they're a non-profit. So they keep it all. And who gets screwed? You do. And like I said, fasten your seatbelts, everybody. Here comes the threats, layoffs, 2.5 overrides. We can't afford Diamond. We can't afford it. We can't afford it. We can't afford it. And then the magic word was uttered today when they were talking about that. It was like, oh, but some of these other communities got an override. Yeah, well, we're going to be looking at 2.5 overrides, Diamond overrides. We already got a Durfee override. And you know what they're going to be doing to the taxpayer? Riding them hard and riding them long. There's not going to be anything left of you when they're done with you. Back to you, CJ.
The interesting thing about last night's meeting with EMS was the fact that they brought up visiting nursing. Okay, that visiting nursing isn't 24 hours a day. Visiting nursing is 24 hours a day. They set up their regular appointments between 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. And then overnight, they handle all emergency calls. They also handle hospice calls in the middle of the night. So it is available 24 hours a day. And for EMS to turn around and say, well, in other communities, the services that we want to provide replace the visiting nurses. Not that I want to replace the visiting nurses, but that's what they're talking about. And Laura Washington had to chime in and say, well, my mother was a nurse, and I know exactly what you're talking about. How does that give you, experience or expertise in visiting nurse services? It doesn't. I worked as a visiting nurse at one time. Okay, I worked as a travel nurse at one time. And guess what? I was fine. It all worked out for me. And I know how those systems work. And let me tell you something. There's a lot that goes into being a visiting nurse. There's a lot that goes into being a travel nurse. You've got to learn a lot more, a lot faster than when you're a staff nurse in a hospital. And it sometimes isn't easy to do. But you do it. And you learn it. And that's where the expertise comes from. So I can sit there and talk about visiting nursing services. I can go out there and go talk about travel nursing services. And I can be an expert at it. But Laura Washington, you can't be an expert at it. Okay? So far, you're an expert at bullshit. Okay? You do that very well. It's like another podcaster who decided to take me on yesterday that I have some secret why I left the Midwest. Ooh, I don't know. The secret I left the Midwest was I did not renew my contract. I signed on with travel nursing. There's my big secret for leaving the Midwest. Isn't that interesting? Oh, scary, scary thought. Scary, scary thought. But remember, I never gave up my residency in Massachusetts. So that tells you another thing. So I'm tired of all these games with the city council. I'm tired of all these games with these unnamed podcasters. I'm tired of the bull that goes on regularly. Guess what? It's time to be real. It's time to be real, people. And that's what Fall River needs. Fall River needs to be real. We need to be real with our politicians. We need to be real with the way our lives is, and we need to be real with city finances. Something that this mayor does not know. He does not know city finances. And he's proven that by the monkeys he's surrounded himself with.
Well, that's true. And the other problem is we're surrounded by monkeys who don't even know the city they live in because they don't live here. This morning I had to inform the CFO in a discussion about fundings and things. We got into an often thing. She was complaining about the firefighters award, and I had to inform her that the reason the firefighters won that award was because of all the other contracts that you gave out. You don't think that has an effect on the arbitrator when it looks at what the rest of the city has gotten? It does. Obviously, there's another thing to that, because like you are an expert in nursing, I am a collective bargaining expert. And I had to inform her. And she said, rather cavalierly, well, I've never seen the JLMC rule in favor of a city. And I said, well, that's because you weren't in this state. I said, the police went to arbitration a few years ago, and they lost. I went twice, and I won twice. Now the firefighters have won. Also, the New Bedford firefighters went to arbitration simultaneously at the time we were in arbitration, and they lost. And they actually received benefit cuts. And the city won that arbitration. So these people have no idea what they're talking about. And they go before the council and they tell other boneheads who think because their great-great-uncle was a farmer that they're farming experts. I'm an expert in farming because my great-great-uncle was a farmer. That's not the way it works. You are a PhD in nursing. You didn't invent that thing. You took a PhD graduate course and would receive that honorable degree, which signifies you understand. And you also worked in other fields. As you said, we don't know what Laura Washington's mother was. Was she a visiting nurse? Was she a hospital nurse? And I don't have to explain to you. You know far more than I do. There are, and a lot of people don't know it, but I know it because when I go up to Mass General, I know that they have nurses with specialties. If you're a cardiac patient, you're on a cardiac floor with nurses that are cardiac nurses. If you're if you have an orthopedic surgery, you're on a floor with orthopedic nurses. And you know better than I about specialization within the nursing profession, critical care nurses. And as you said, visiting nurses are always called in the evening to emergencies. I mean, people are, they feel bad enough to, to call for medical assistance. So that takes a different kind of skill set, because fundamentally you're going into it's not just somebody walking in with the sniffles. Somebody says, I think I've had a medical emergency. So But look, this is the city. You know, it's like the federal government. It's like it's like Biden and his clown show. We have Coogan and his clown show. We've got people that don't even know half of the laws in Massachusetts that they work under because they're not from Massachusetts. And then you wonder why this city is going to go in a tank. It's going in a tank because he lied. He knew damn well this city is in deep doo-doo financially. But he still gave out all these massive contracts. And then what he's going to do on the end of it and say, hey, screw this, at the end of this, I'm out of this city. You guys can make a choice between overriding 2.5 or having some guy threaten to lay off all the cops and firefighters. And that's a position we should not be in because they are fiduciarily and fiscally irresponsible. And we have the lunatics running the asylum. So, CJ, you can comment on it, especially about the nursing piece, because obviously you know a hell of a lot.
Well, you know, there's a lot of specialization in nursing now, and I mean, correctional nursing, emergency nursing, cardiac nursing, OBGYN, prenatal. They have them all, and that's the way it works. And there are certifications for all of those things. But I want to get back to the JLMC award. If I were the union president, I would have already filed complaints or legal action against the city for not presenting it to the city council within 30 days. But maybe the union president has a conflict of interest because remember, he was appointed by the mayor to the housing authority board. So he has to answer to two people, the mayor and the union. And you want to protect both your jobs. And I'm not saying that the union president is doing that, but I would take this back to the arbitrator and say, hey, look, they're not doing this. They're not paying this. They're not presenting it to the city council for payment. They're using excuses that they're looking for the money. There's no money to look for. It was awarded. That's it. That's it. Your lawyers should have known this when it came through. And nobody can say that they didn't know there was only 30 days on this award. That's it. They tried to hide it, and they failed to hide it. They ended up sending it to me. I had it before the city council had it. I had it before anyone in the community had it, except for the mayor's office. So, why am I getting it before the city council? Because I requested it? I don't know. Maybe.
Well, you know, I understand your perspective, but I have to bring a perspective from a person who's been in that position before. But I do agree that it's always been my position. I didn't take any appointed positions from any politician while I was the president of that union for 24 years. I felt it would put me in a situation where that could be looked at as a viable reason. But I'm going to share my experience as a union president, negotiating contracts for 24 years. Because there is a political aspect of this, because it has to be funded by the city council. So there are sometimes you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and because the union has to abide by laws and abide by a process, they're not going to come out publicly and give you all the information. But we don't know if the union has reached out to the council and they have been assured that for whatever reason it was, and it's not a good reason. I'm not going to say it's a good reason. Because you got Seth Akins and a band of merry financial team assistants trying to figure out something that there's nothing to figure out. It's just Everything when you go to arbitration is costed out. Every benefit that was awarded, they already know how much it's going to cost. It's not about how much it's going to cost. It's about where they're going to find the money. And has nothing to do with the process of arbitration. That's a political thing. They screwed up. They don't have enough money. Well, tough luck. They're going to, as you said, they're going to have to find it. But I can see a union saying, well, you know, we're not going to file anything now and aggravate the council or delay it even more, because now we got a legal issue to go through. We've been assured that this thing is going to be taken up within the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I'm not sure if that's true, but it is a consideration that you always have to make, because remember, it's not like Paul Coogan. Give everybody on my staff a pay raise. Council says no, I don't give a shit. I'm giving it to them anyway. And they got it. Illegally. And nobody said a damn thing about it. Can't pick up private trash? I'm picking it up anyway. Send me a resolution to stop, I ignore it. I don't care. But the regular people, the working people, can't do that. Because after you go through all this work and all the research it takes to go to the JLMC and justify everything you demand, it's still not guaranteed. It used to be, but they took that away. Because the working people don't have an equal playing field. Now, you've still got to convince the council to fund it. And that's when the politics comes in. And that's a problem. And it's believe me, that's the worst part of being a union president. You fight for the guys who aren't in with the boss. You fight for the guys who are not in with the city, and you take great joy in beating the city and keeping a level and equal working environment for the people in your union. But then ultimately, when you try to get a pay raise, which is extremely important to everybody, there's a political thing. You just can't go over there and bulldoze your way in and say, I'm going to file a suit right now, because then you're going to say, well, we got to weigh it. It's a difficult task, believe me. Most of the time, we got it in front of the council fairly rapidly. But, you know, they're going to go to, you don't want to tie it up in court, because you know what they'll say? They'll go to court and they'll say, oh, it wasn't the regular stuff, it was the retroactive pay, because I believe retroactive was included in his settlement, and we can talk about this in depth on Friday. But then they have to go figure the retro. Retro is difficult to figure, because retro is back, and somebody may have had a change in rank, a change in their step pay level. So each period of that retroactive has to be every single member of that union. They have to take them and look at it and say, oh, this guy has been at this rank for the whole period, no big deal. This is how much he gets, okay, in retro. Somebody else might have went from firefighter to lieutenant, from lieutenant to captain, from captain to district chief, to whatever. Some of them may have had, you know, acting out of grade time, overtime, all that stuff has to be included in a retroactive. It's a complicated thing. People think it's pretty simple, but it's not. And with this financial team, it might take 10 years to figure out the retroactive. I mean, that's the problem. The problem is, before, we had it all figured out for them. And I'm sure that the firefighters did, but they'll say, well, we don't trust your numbers. Well, I don't trust our financial team. So I just want to bring that aspect in, because I'm not going to, I've been in that seat. It is it's a minefield that you have to negotiate, and it is absolutely the worst part of being a union advocate for the people. is having to deal with these scumbag politicians. And that's exactly what they are. Scumbags. Back to you, CJ.
Well, that's the reason why I brought it up, because I wanted the expert in this situation to chime in and tell the people why nobody's doing anything or acting upon it. Because, as you said, they probably are acting upon it already and knowing what's going on. And that's all that we have to worry about. But there is one thing I wanted to bring up that needs to be very clear. We as a general public can hold our politicians accountable. We as the general public can hold our departments accountable. We can hold our boards and commissions accountable, even if that means filing a lawsuit. And we attempted to put together a legal defense fund for the people against the city. And had these people come up with money, more so than they did, and I got to thank the people that came up with 20 here, 30 there, and gave the money. We need somebody to come up with more money, and we need to find somebody who's got the Powerball so that we can do this. Because that would make life a lot easier. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Friday. Have a great day.